All right, real honored to have my next guest on the one-on-one card shop guest line. He's a man that, be honest with you, if I may be so bold, we share similar views. We have some things in common. We're both Mets fans. We both are from New York City. I'm now in Syracuse, New York, home of the AAA Syracuse Mets, I might add. But love what he does. He's a legend in a sense on YouTube. Eric from ThoseBackPages, welcome to Sports Card Nation.
Well, John, thank you. Hello, friends. ThoseBackPages here. I hope you're well.
Thank you. I was going to use that line, but I'm like, you can't do it. That's Eric's. That would be sacrilegious. You got to let him do it. So I love it. I love it. I believe you've been in the hobby a long time, like me. I got my start in '79. When did you start in the sports cards?
Well, all right. So I guess by technicality, you've got me by a year.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have very, very strong memories of in 1980. I lived with my mother. She was a single mom, and I was a latchkey kid. I'm sure you know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we lived in Flushing, Queens. And so I would come home from school after school because my school was probably half a mile from my house, my apartment, and we could walk back and forth back then. It wasn't a big deal. So I would take being a fellow Met fan like yourself, I would take my stack of 1980 tops and I would take out all the Mets. And then I would take the rest of the stack, however high it was at the time, and I would spread them out in the hallway. And then I would run down the hallway in my socks and my pants, and I would slide on them, practicing my little league slide. So who knows? Who knows how many Hendersons were in there, or Nolan Ryans, or But hey, as long as the Mets weren't in there, I was happy.
And those non-Met cards served the purpose. They were working on your game, your skill set.
That's scary that's now, 41 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it's crazy. Where does the time go, right? As they say. I love when I talk to someone who's from the New York City area, and obviously when you're from that area and people share those stories, they really hit home. I went to PS 132 in Parksville, Brooklyn, and my school was literally across the street from my house, and I was actually raised by my grandparents, and so my grandma would just and so my grandma would literally just walk me across the street, and into school I went. So I love reminiscing and bringing, like you said, 40 years ago, like, holy smokes. When you think about it, it makes you feel old, reality sets in. So,
yeah, I'm sure some more of those, that makes you feel old, are going to pop up during our conversation tonight.
For sure. But one thing, I got to ask you, I hope it's not obvious, and I don't feel like your name that you use, ThoseBackPages, where does that come from?
Well, I'm a big music guy, big music fan, classic rock, lean towards mostly rock. And when it became time for me to come up with a new name, I figured, my back page is a Bob Dylan song, but that name was taken. So I was like, all right, I'll put my own spin on it, ThoseBackPages. So that's how that was formed. And then later on, and I've had this moniker for going on 18 years now. I've used this pretty much everywhere, and everyone's like, sports, the back of the newspaper, sports, right, Eric? No, it works. It fits the narrative now with being a big sports guy and collecting and everything. But Unfortunately, it wasn't that clever. It was more the music tip, but it does work. I mean, hindsight being 2020. Hey, you know what? Hey, and again, feeling old. Remember newspapers, and we used to get, you know, we used to wait for the sports final edition so we could see what happened on the West Coast. And hey, where you going? Right to the back pages.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
back.
serendipity works. It wound up fitting the bill, as they say. So,
Yes.
yeah. Well, one thing I admire about you is something I tried to be, Eric. And, obviously, I think we both know 2020's been arguably the biggest year in the hobby history. If it ain't the one, it's right it's right up there.
It's definitely
And
up there. Yeah.
and obviously with that you got a lot of new people coming into the hobby, a lot of people getting back into the hobby that were in it at one point, left, and they're returning. And I, like you, I've been welcoming. We've all were new at some time. When I started in 79 as a 7-year old, getting that first pack of 79 Tops baseball, I was new. We all have to start somewhere. And like I always say on my show, there's no pension plan. There's no tenure. So whether it's me and you that 30 plus years or someone that started yesterday, we're all in the hobby together. I know that's something you echo in your content. You make that very clear, that this hobby is for everyone, however you wish to enjoy it. I mean, but we do see some negativity with new folks coming in, that some of the old guard, if you will, not as nice, let's put it this way, as maybe me or you are in that aspect. What do you think that comes from? Why do you think certain folks might be that way?
Well, I mean, there's a variety of answers to that question. I think a lot of people are um, fearful, resentment. There's some resentment there and like you said, I'll echo it, that there is no wrong way to collect. There's no wrong way to be involved in the hobby. I mean, you and I both know a lot of people, and I know people that are, strictly 100% collecting, never sell anything, never have any plans on selling anything. I know people that are really love the hobby, but they'll have something a month and they get bored with it, so they sell it and then they buy something else. And I see no problem with that. I know people that are strictly into the hobby for the financial aspect of it. Hey, if that makes you happy, I mean, I really don't have a problem with how anyone wants to interact in the hobby, because I think the more people that everybody serves a purpose. You need those guys that are flipping for money because you need to buy something. You need breakers because people want to buy singles. I mean, the pipeline is very large and it's all interconnected, almost like the human nervous system, really. Everything is interconnected. And, as someone who has been a fan of retail for 16 years now, and up until 2020, I never had an issue finding anything I might want. And there were a couple products that came out last year that I never saw. It happens.
Yeah.
Then you see, like you mentioned, the old guard. Some call them gatekeepers. They get mad at why is anyone going to Target and buying everything? That's not right. Well, why would they do something and only make $5 or $6 or $8, $10 a blaster? That's a waste of time. Well, maybe not for them, especially
Yeah.
when you count in 2020 when so many people were looking to hustle, for lack of a better term. Hey,
Yeah.
it's I think, we're still getting, I honestly think that 2021 is already saying to 2020, here, hold my beer, as the people like to say now,
Yeah.
because the prices have gotten even crazier this year. So like you said, I think there's room for everybody in the hobby.
Yeah, again, you're right, and I think we're both on the same page here. People complain, well, wax is, and listen, I've said this too. Wax, some of the prices too after release are really getting through the ceiling. But
But
I'll buy
again,
singles.
that buy singles, but then again, that's also
set by the buyers.
But set by the buyers, but also it's like the old guard. We're used to it being what it was, but it's not what it was anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, things change, things evolve. The hobby is growing, and you know, singles I used to be able to buy for as many as I want for $1 or $2 can't anymore. Now they're 5 or 6, or can't even get them anymore. Boo hoo! That sucks for me, but it is what it is. You know, you know, some people have such a strong sense of entitlement that it's a little scary. Like you mentioned in the open, we've got all types of people. I have people emailing me all the time. Hey, Eric, I love your channel. You know, the usual highly appreciative compliments that I get. But then they'll say, you know what? I haven't, because of 2020 and the whole, you know, bug thing, you know, they came back to the hobby after 30 years. Like for, you know, I'm just making a generic example. Like, oh, you know, I was in the house, couldn't go out. I went up into the attic and I found my cards that I haven't looked at in 20 years, you know, and then they come back. Then you've got guys that, you know, from the late 80s, when the junk wax era came to an end, they quit. Then you have guys that, you know, they'll collect for a little bit and then go away for years and then come, you know, 2-3 years and then come back. So you've got all kinds of people coming back, getting involved. So unfortunately, we can't,
Can't please everybody.
Can't please everybody, and everything is not going to stay stagnant forever. And I've got friends that are angry. Well, I guess angry is a relative term, but they're not happy about the price increase because they didn't get some player X's rookie. And I said to them, look, you've had how many years now to buy it? Well, I was going to get around to it. Well, you know, you didn't. You know, the one thing I always like to tell, the one thing I've said this, and honestly, John, I've said this probably for a good 10 years now. I've told people there's no wrong time to buy a Hank Aaron rookie.
Yeah.
That's been from my mantras on Twitter, on my YouTube channel, anywhere. And then unfortunately, you know, he passed away last month. So, and then they shot up. Surprise, surprise. They shot up in price. I mean, this is not rocket science. You know, I'm not doing brain surgery, just stating the obvious. And one of my mantras is to share your knowledge.
Yep.
You know, because when you and I were kids, it was all about, well, I got to be right, and I got to not tell anybody. I got to get as many of this as possible. You know, play like I got to buy as many Maggin and rookies as I can because he's going to be amazing, type of deal. But now, between, you know, social media and the internet, no one's fooling anyone anymore.
Yeah, there are no secrets.
Like when Topps puts out the Bowman draft every year, you're not fooling anyone. You have a checklist. You have the internet. You just Google every name on the checklist. You're not some baseball guru that you pick out player X.
That's you can look up scouting reports from the actual player scouts.
I mean, it's not how it used to be. And a lot of people, like the people you mentioned that are, you know, on the bidder side of things, that's the way it was. I mean, either, you know, Dylan said it best. Get out of the new road if you can't lend your hand, because the times they are changing.
Yep.
The hobby's changing now. So if you can't lend your hand, step aside.
Yep. And all great points. I agree wholeheartedly. You know, speaking of like waiting too long to acquire a card, you brought up the Hank Aaron rookie as an example. I'm a huge Jackie Robinson guy. I have a lot of his stuff, but the one card that I don't have, I believe you have it, if I saw your social media right, is the 48 Leaf. Yes. And it's my fault. I'm not mad at anybody. If I'm mad at anyone, Eric, I'm mad at myself, because there was a few occasions where I was offered that card, and this was even before it went through the stratosphere. It wasn't at that level. It was actually very affordable, and I just dragged my feet. I'm like, I'm not going to get it today. I'll backtrack. I had gotten something else instead. I always thought it was going to be there, and I would get it. And probably 2 or 3 actual moments I can actually point back to, and I didn't pull the trigger, as they say. And now, like if I have, someone asks me any hobby regrets, I don't have a lot, because I love the hobby. I'm still having fun, but that would probably be right there at the top, just not getting the 48 leaf at the time. And these were, good specimens too. And now I'm resigned to just, hey, I'll take
copy.
a graded one or two,
Right.
and pay a lot less, and just have the card for loving Jackie
Right.
Robinson, and him being my idol as a
Yeah.
kid, and even still. And so, but it's one thing if I could, if the DeLorean was real and Dr. Brown, I'd jump in and go back to probably all three of those moments, and buy all three of them, and then come back. But obviously that's just a movie, as we both know. But but I don't get mad if I'm mad at anybody. That's my bad. That's
Right.
my lack of foresight to maybe realize
I've had that for 10 years now. I bought that in 2011.
Yeah, it's a beautiful card, and so iconic. I mean, for what it transcends to me, even past the sport of baseball. And
I agree.
Someday I'll probably have a lesser grade copy, but it'll still be.
Hey, you know what?
Still be mine.
A copy is a copy. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, because I've been collecting slabs, graded cards, for 16 years now. So I'm not going to say I was always, as stringent's not the word, but focused. Like I had my phase where, it's got to be a gem mint copy. It was a very small window of time, but for the most part, I want to own the card. Especially the classics.
Yeah.
You want to own the card. And the way the hobby is going with the prices and everything, you want to own the card. That's the bottom line. You want to have a nice copy. Of course, who wouldn't want to have a pristine copy? But everyone has their own hobby budget that you can't worry about. Oh well, I guess how you look at it is if here's my player X rookie in a PSA 2. And anyone, you see it all the time on social media. They show off I got this mail day. It's a PSA 2 of player whoever you're collecting. And you'll see some people always, oh man, it's only a 2. What? I can't believe. Whereas that's not the way to go about it. You'd be happy for that person.
Yeah.
Because that person was happy to either bid on it, hit the buy it now, whatever it may be, and they're proud to own it. And they were proud enough to own it that they showed it off on social media. Because if you start hammering these people, that card sucks. That condition is horrible. How dare you spend X amount of dollars, not knowing what that person's hobby budget is in the first place.
Yeah. Or what that means to them.
Yeah, you're shaming them because they have a lower assigned grade card. Now, you do that enough, that person won't bother anymore. It's like, I'm not going to tweet this. If I'm going to people tell me my card sucks and you should just save up more money and buy a better copy, then I'm just not going to bother. And we see that. Unfortunately, I see that. I don't know if you notice that as well, but I see that on YouTube a lot.
Yeah.
But it takes what we do, take some stones.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly difficult, but I've been doing this for a long time now. And I'm sure you feel the same way. But at least for myself, and I can only always speak for myself, I remember when I first started, I was nervous and all that stuff, but that's natural.
Yeah.
And the more content you make, the easier it gets.
Yeah. It's funny, man. It's funny you said that. And a lot of people are supportive. I mean, the hobby has a great community too, but you're right with I definitely want to touch on what you said there too. You're right. There are people that will be derogatory to and potentially ruin someone's day. Here they are. excited, happy. They're posting, this is my Grail card. I finally got it. I never thought I would get it. And then they, like you said, they'll make a derogatory. Oh, it's not in great shape, or man, you overpay. Like, why even say that? Like, what's the point? What's the point? Like, and you know where it comes from? I think, Eric, I don't want to. You can't paint everyone with a broad brush. Everyone's individual, but I think a lot of times, anyway, some of it's actually from jealousy. That person actually wishes they could even afford that card. Let's say, even, we know some of these cards, even in 1, 2, 3s, go for 5 digits. So, based on, depending on the card. So there's some people that just kind of internally like, man, I wish I could even get one in that shape. And so it's just easier, rather than say, hey, man, congratulations, to make them build themselves back up because they're feeling a little bit down. They'll take a pot shot at somebody, and for the moment anyway, they feel better internally, but they're not really thinking about, like you said, the repercussions of those words. Like, you can ruin someone's hobby experience. They may even, to the point, they may, like you said, either not post, or even worst case scenario, like just get out of the hobby, or stop hobbying. They'll keep the card and just kind of, like you said, go into a shell and be afraid to even post something in the future. And that we shouldn't be like that, and as far as being a content creator, it's funny you mentioned, I've said on my show, like, when I was a kid, I was a shy kid. I would, I remember in school, even if I had to use the restroom, I would like hate to raise my hand, and I would just try. I remember a lot of this. I've said this already, but on my show, there was times where I would hold it almost all day, and like when I got picked up, luckily my house was across the street from the school, so
that's true.
I told my grandma, hurry up, I got to go to the bathroom. And we'd scoot across the street. I'd run up the stoop into the house and go to the bathroom, right? But if you would have told me that, even as an older kid, when we have to do that speech in English class, I used to dread it.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And I used to go to my English teacher and say, listen, can I write like a 2,000 word essay instead, or can I do something else? And, he's like, no, John, everyone has to do it. That's the assignment. And, do the best you can. Everyone, like, what are you nervous about? These are all your classmates. And even in high school, when I played high school baseball and football, and I said that to my high school teacher, he turned to me and said, are you kidding, John? You play in front of 1,000 people football, or not as many in baseball, but you do play in front of a crowd, and you can't get up in front of 30 people that you know very well. And I'm like, it's different when you're playing on a field. You phase all those folks out. When I'm looking at the 30 classmates, I feel like all eyes are. He goes, I don't know what to tell you, man. You're gonna have to suck it up. And so I always did it. But if you would have told that younger version of me, hey, years later, you would coach high school varsity football and baseball, and have parent meetings, and get up in front of 16, 17, and 18-year-olds and give speeches, and then to do content creation and talk to thousands of people, I would have thought you're nuts. I would have said, I don't know where you're getting your information from. But
that's what age will do to you.
Yeah. Well, I think as you get older, I know with me, you sort of, when you're younger, you're worried about everyone. Oh, I want everyone to like me. I want to be, I want to fit in. I think when you get older, you realize like that's not really what it's all about.
No.
When you realize when you get older, like, I just want to enjoy what I enjoy. I'm going to be me. If someone likes me for that, awesome. If they don't, awesome. Either way, right? And you lose those sort of inhibitions, those that the nervousness that comes along with trying to get everyone to like you. You just say, hey,
and that's something that an 18-year-old will never understand.
Yep. My son.
Right. I mean, I'm sure you could tell your son one thing, it goes in one ear and out the other ear. It's just, it's just the way. And then when he gets to be our age, he'll be like, man, My father was right.
He don't like to tell me that now, but someday I'm
No.
hoping to hear it.
Oh,
I
he
get it
will.
later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah,
get it later. You'll get it later.
yeah. But it's funny how that works, and here we are. And and one thing you do with your content, I try to do the same. Is be informative, be encouraging, be an ambassador, an advocate of the hobby we both enjoy and love, and pass it on to everyone else, and welcome everyone else. I think that's
Oh
important.
yeah.
I think we both know here, oh, I hate to be morbid, but listen, we're not going to be here forever. Hopefully, it's a lot longer
Right.
and a longer time. But the music stops at some point, and we got to have that next generation coming up behind us
And
to take the baton.
that's what I've
And
told. I've told that to many guys privately. Like,
yeah,
hey, make content. You got kids? You have kids? Make content.
yeah, yeah,
Because the YouTube and the internet is forever.
yep,
So
yep,
you might have young kids now, and I've had a couple guys that actually started their own channel after we had this conversation because I made sense to them. I was like, look, at the national, I've had guys come up to me. They say, "Hey, Eric, I don't know who they are, but they watch the channel. They watch my channel,
yeah,
so they talk to me, and that's fine. I don't mind that at all." And I say, "Hey, are you making content?" No, no, I don't really. I'm nervous. I don't want to. It's like, do you have kids? Yeah, I've got a couple younger kids. Look, make content. Why? This is why. Because YouTube, the internet and YouTube is forever. So you might not appreciate it now. Something might happen to you next week. Something might happen to you in the future. Your kids are going to have kids eventually. So they,
yeah.
30 years from now, your grandkids will be like, "Whoa, what did grandpa, what did he like to do?" Boom, let's go to YouTube. We can hear him. We can see
Yeah,
him.
true.
We can see what he loved to do because it shows through when you're making content and you love baseball cards. It shows through.
Yep.
Oh, and
Yeah,
and it's
passion shines right through, like
right.
you said.
It's on the record. It's always there. Back 2 years ago now, in 19, we lost a community member, Joe Ryan Fan 30 on YouTube. He was a great guy. He didn't make a lot of content, but he was always active in the live chats, in the chat room aspect of the live chats. And his wife and son came home one day and he was gone.
Yep.
Now those videos to them must mean the world
Yep.
because anyone who's lost anyone of significance knows what it's like to miss somebody. So make your content, put your face out there. Now, if you have circumstances where you can't reveal your face, that's different. But if you've got nothing holding you back, man,
Well,
go
even there, Eric, do an audio podcast. Like I
yeah,
like that's what this is. I've only recently really start doing the interviews video as well, but
yeah,
I started just with just audio, and
sure,
like you said, if you can't go on camera, whatever for whatever reason, or maybe you're even too shy, you're more comfortable just speaking without being
that's a
seen,
good
then
point.
there's that medium.
Right.
There's no reason to do. And you mentioned even for family, but I'll even take it one step further. If what you're saying is helpful to even someone you don't know that's even listening to it, it's worth it.
Oh, for
Maybe
sure, for sure.
if someone's watching those back pages or listening to Sports Card Nation, and we're talking about the hobby in a positive way like we do, and someone out there is maybe they're like, hey, I was thinking about quitting, but I just heard Eric or I just heard John kind of say, encourage me, hey, hobby your way, do it the way you enjoy. Forget what anyone else is telling you. This is your
Which is
hobby.
which is more true now than it's ever
Yep.
been in the hobby, with the way
Yep.
the prices have gone.
Yep. And even if that message, positively influences one person, it's worth it. It's
Oh,
worth it. I don't care.
without a doubt.
If 1,000 downloads, even if one person takes something from it, that's what it's all about. And I like, you get those, I get feedback. Hey, I love the conversation with so and so, and great points, and what you said made me think about it a different way. I didn't realize that, and it makes sense. And
Always
you don't realize sometimes the impact that you may have. It's
right,
and just think, there's probably people you impact, quite frankly, that don't actually tell you you impacted them
right.
positively.
Don't
They
say
just
anything.
didn't fire off an email or message. So just because if you don't get all of those doesn't mean you're still not
Right.
having an
I
impact.
totally agree with you.
And so that's why I do it. It's not uh, I don't. Some people probably do it for their own ego. I mean, we all
Sure.
have an ego.
Well, we all know people
Anyone that says,
sure.
and I always say this: anyone that says they don't have an ego is lying right there off the bat.
Right.
We all
Everyone's got
ego
some
is
sort of
ego
right.
is something we all own. Some are just bigger
Right.
than others, and
Goes with
I
I think
don't.
that goes with the collecting gene.
Yeah, and so I don't do it necessarily for that. It's always nice to hear those compliments,
Of
and
course.
you'd rather hear them than the alternative. But
Right.
I just think even if the ones you don't hear, if something you say or do is positively affecting someone in a positive manner, then that's great. And when you hear about it, it's
Totally
even
agree.
greater. And that's why I do it. And I know you're the same way. And
Absolutely.
watching your videos, and that's refreshing. I love that stuff because I guess when you believe in something yourself and you hear the same, it's right up your alley. So
Exactly.
you mentioned grading. I'm in the grading now. Years ago, when grading sort of first came out, or I shouldn't say first, when it really started getting some steam, if you will, in the early 90s, I was I thought it was kind of foolish. I remember telling a buddy of mine, I actually had a card store at the time, and one of my customers, who was a good friend of mine, he came in with a graded card. I believe it was Beckett. And he goes, John, look at this. I just got this back. I had it graded. And he handed it to me, and I'm trying to think I can't remember what it was, what specific card. But I'm like, what did this cost you, man? And he's like, well, it costs like $15 to grade, shipping there and back. And so all total,
Right.
probably around 30 something bucks. And I'm like, man, that's goofy. You send
Yeah.
your card, you pay them to look at your card and then put it in a plant. The case is cool, but now you can't hold it. You hold the case and you pay for that. And I'm like, this ain't going to last. And here we are. It's 2021, and I'll tell you, I've sent over 4,000 cards to be graded. I don't have 4,000 cards graded inventory. Probably I have four figures, but not the 4,000 as you move them and get new ones.
Sure.
But and I use that. I tell that story periodically on the show because I use it as a great point. Is that we can change our opinion. We can.
Right.
I've said on the show, like, hey, I was wrong on grading. I laughed at it and thought it was a fad that was going to go away, right? And not so fast.
Right. The basic way I like to break it down, like in layman's terms, is I look at grading as a vessel to get it from the seller to the buyer. That's what
Yep.
the seller's job when they're selling a card on the internet, because remember, we're also on the internet now, even before 2020 and all that. The job of the seller is to get the most money possible. I don't care what anyone says. Sure, there's some honest guys out there, of course. But here's my here's my Gooden rookie. It's X amount of dollars. Oh, I want a Gooden rookie. Is it in great shape? Yeah, it's in great shape. All right, I'll buy it. Then they mail it to me. I get it in the mail. Wow, this isn't great shape. But the seller said, yeah, it's in great shape. Everyone's opinion of what great shape is different. So that's where the grading companies step in and offer their opinion on what a card's condition is. Now, when you're buying cards at the show, at any show, physically looking at the card, it's much easier to make that transaction.
Yeah.
Especially on the easier to get stuff, the modern stuff. Hey, let me check that out. All right, what do you want for it? Let's haggle a little bit. and then move on. But when you're dealing on an internet-based age where it's your job as a seller, someone's job as a seller to get as most as possible, it's in their benefit. Not, well, you know what, this has a little crease on the back. They're not going to say that. So to me, that's like the super simple layman's terms about grading. I look at it as a vessel to get from point A, the seller, to point B, the buyer.
Yeah.
With all things considered being an unbiased opinion. That's a whole nother topic. But that's how I look at it. And as someone who's done the graded thing for a long time, like yourself, how to play the game.
Yeah.
Not all assigned grades are created equally. There are rules that you can use as a collector, you can use to your advantage when you're buying something.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too. You hit that right on the head. I mean, it takes it puts a transparency into the transaction. Whether you agree with the grade or not, at least somebody looked at it and gave an assessment. Like you said, and I've been there, done that too. Oh man, this thing's nice. It should grade well. And then you get it, like, what were they thinking? Like their system of assessment by the naked eye is a lot different than mine. And I'm not even saying they were trying to be slick. They may just their view of something being in great shape. Their definition is different. Like you said, their definition of great shape is different than mine. It takes that guesswork out. And here's the other thing, and you know this too. We're seeing a lot of fakes now, from Jordan rookies to the Trout updates. Even some of these vintage cards are getting Fugazi. It's scary. There's certain cards I wouldn't buy, honestly, anymore, Eric, without it being graded.
Even in person, you really got to be careful. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine. I told this story's been on the show before. I had a friend of mine. He's a dealer. I'm a dealer as well. I'm a Texan. But he bought a deal where he bought 10 Trout rookies from an individual, raw, all ungraded. To the naked eye, passed inspection, looked in great shape, and he sent them in to get graded, and 7 of them came back as not real, as fake.
Wow.
3 graded. I think he did well there, but 7 of the 10 that he paid for came back. They weren't even, as you know, they didn't even get encapsulated. They came back as not the general article. Yeah, and he wouldn't have bought that. He wouldn't have bought that deal knowing 7 of them. And he even said, "I'm not even saying the guy that I bought them from knew they were."
They might not have known.
He said, "I think they bought them, and in turn, they were reselling them." To me, they might have got rooked without knowing it, and I got fooled. It didn't pass I didn't catch it, and PSA did in this case. But that's where grading can detect. You know what I mean? When you buy a graded card, that it should be the genuine article, and this is what assessment they're gonna give it. It takes that fear of I have a couple Trout updates. It's another iconic card in the modern sense, and if I right now, if someone shows me even at raw ones, I'm so leery. I know that sounds terrible, but it just from seeing my friends' experience, maybe that was the worst thing for me, because now every Trout I see, I'm like, oh man, is it? It's
the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and so I would rather almost buy a grading one if I was going to add more to the inventory than to go. Or even work a deal where I buy the deal almost tentatively. Hey, I'll pay this for the car, but I'm gonna get it graded. Right. And if it for some reason doesn't come back genuine, you almost put that money. You almost put that money in sort of like a middle account, and like, hey, as long as it comes back as legit, we got a deal. But that's where. Grading, a lot of people I know bag on it, people who don't grade. are generally negative to it, and I don't get mad at them as much as because I wasn't really negative because going back to the story when I thought it was a gimmick and it wouldn't last, but I'm like, hey, to each their own. But sometimes people have some serious vitriol towards people who grade or graded.
You and I both know a couple of those fellas.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't get that. Like,
no,
all you have to say is, hey, it's not my thing. I think it's kind of silly. But knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. It's not for me.
Back in the late 90s, it was very expensive, too.
Yeah.
The slabs themselves were expensive.
Yeah.
Because I took my first retirement in 98. Somewhere in the early to middle of 1998, I retired for the first time. Haven't retired again since, but retired for the first time. And I remember, and I came back full bore in 2005. And when I came back, I was like, wow, these slabs got cheap.
Yeah.
Like the whole downturn had happened for the somewhere between 1999 and 2005, where I was 98% not involved. So when I came back, it was like a whole new world where things were affordable.
Yeah.
In the non-gem mint, I've, like I said before, I've swam in the non-gem mint side of the pool pretty much my entire collecting career.
Yeah.
Because I would take like, and one thing, anyone who's listening that wants to get into graded cards, do your research. Absolutely do your research.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go into it blind. Know what you want to do. Read up on it. Ask questions. Now, when I started this and it started back up in 2005, social media wasn't a thing. We had message boards and that stuff, but now ask questions. Like I say it on Twitter all the time. Ask as many questions as you want. There's no such thing as stupid questions when you're coming back into the hobby. And that's
just you don't ask.
Right. It doesn't just apply to graded. Any hobby question, ask. And if the people you're asking don't want to be bothered, ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Because they might be like, I'm sure you get it too, John. I'll get questions that I have to answer 10 or 12 times. Same question. It's okay. Like, I don't think, oh man, I got to answer this silly question again. No, the person had the withal of themselves to ask it in the first place.
I'm flattered that they value my opinion to the point they would ask for it.
And on Twitter, the collecting thing on Twitter is getting bigger again. And ask if the people you're asking don't want to be bothered, ask somebody else.
Yep. And there's plenty of people like yourself, like myself, to pat ourselves on the back here, but it's true that will help you. And we're not the only two, obviously, but there's plenty of folks out there. And like you said, someone says no or they don't respond, go to the next person. And I, like you, I take it as, hey, they think enough of me to value my opinion. I'll give them the time. They make time for me. I'll make time for them. It's the least, the way I look, it's the least I can
exactly.
Do. So, people, when I was younger, I asked questions and people were helpful to me. I'm paying that forward now, if you will, if you want to use the term veteran hobbyist. There are no, as you know, there are no experts in this hobby. People like to claim they are, but I don't believe.
You're always learning. That's one of my mantras, is always learning. I want to learn something new about the hobby every day.
Yeah.
I want to learn about the hobby every day.
Yeah. Well, the hobby's changing so much. You even if you didn't know, even if it was possible to know everything, tomorrow something new's coming that there's no way until you learn it and see it. And so, anyone that says, "Oh, I'm an expert" or "I know everything," whenever I hear that, I know it sounds terrible. I usually hit the off button because that tells me, and I'm not, and all due respect to people who create content, they're putting in work, they're putting the effort, they're sharing their knowledge. I appreciate that, but I've done this a long time. You've done, and I try to really catch myself. I never say like I guarantee or I
No.
know this for a fact. The only facts I know is I know what I had for dinner last night. I know what color shirt I'm wearing at the moment. But after that, like, you can't even know tomorrow. You might plan to do this tomorrow, and something happens. So I
Right.
only speak when it comes to I knows. I only really speak of it in the truest sense. I might say I think, or this is what I see
Yeah, I
happening.
feel strongly.
It's
Right.
just it's an opinion. But I think with 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was on this very program saying, "Hey, folks, this is uncharted territory. I don't think cards are going to be a big priority in people's lives.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Household necessities and paying the mortgage, and so I think card sales are going to really take it in the tush and brace for him. Hobby wise, kind of buckle your seatbelt and hang on. Hopefully this isn't March, obviously. Hopefully
Right.
this thing is not as bad as some are saying, and we get through it in a couple months and everything
Right.
goes back to normal. And I was expecting a bad hobby year, and then, as we both know, having this conversation right now, the exact opposite
Yeah,
happened. And
180.
and if you would have told me then, Eric, hey, this is how the year's going to go with a pandemic, I would have said you're insane. I don't see that. How is that going to be?
Nobody would have
And
said that.
yeah, and that's what 30 something years experience. So what did that get me, right? I was wrong. I whipped. That was like, I was expecting fastball and I got a curveball and terrible, right?
Yeah,
So
your
and
knee.
and a good for the hobby. I mean, I didn't want to be right. That was just my opinion. And
Right.
truthfully, I even remember saying, I hope I'm wrong here, but this is what,
And
and I was wrong.
you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who said opposite of what you thought.
Yeah, yeah. Unless they're going back and redoing and they're saying
So,
they did it
yeah,
then,
selective
but
memory. Right.
rewrite history. But and it's it's great. So and I always use that as an example. There's no one, all my years of experience, and I made an assessment and I swung badly and missed it. And good for the
Hey,
hobby. I mean, I
hey,
know it's bad for people are unfortunately are dying from
yes.
this, and I don't want to be insensitive to that aspect. But it's been the biggest hobby year. And who would have? I didn't think it. You said you
Wow.
didn't. And so you never know. Just when it's like the opening to the Real World back in the MTV day, right? Just when you think you don't know. And that's one of the things. I don't know about you. That's one of the things I appreciate about the hobby. I don't really want to have everything always figured out. That's not even that much fun all the time. I like to
Right.
sort of
I agree with that.
know what's coming around the corner. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. How does this play out? So it's like why we watch, if you're into like dramas or shows, right? And they leave that episode kind of on a cliffhanger. You got to come back
Right.
next week and see what really happens, right? I sort of like that a little bit in the hobby. Not too much, but sometimes, right? Like, hey, how's this all gonna work
Right.
out and play out? And that's part of the beauty of the hobby. Another thing I wanted to touch on too, Eric, and I know I kind of really, I caught me off guard. I knew about it. It was something I knew I would enjoy. I just didn't know that many other people were going to pick it up and enjoy it as much. And that's the Tops Project 2020.
Oh, big
I know
fan.
you were. I
Big
know
fan.
you were big into that. I know even in Blake's chat room with the interviews, you were a big advocate and proponent. I've had 10 of the 20 artists of that commission on this very show,
Right.
and that thing really caught lightning, if you will, and
Perfect
I
storm.
loved it.
Really.
Yeah,
Perfect
it
storm.
was. It was, with between the pandemic and obviously Tops didn't know that when they
No.
did all these planning.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have run
And
out of one touches. Right.
yeah. But I mean, like you said, you have more people at home to take this in, see it, get involved in it.
Yeah.
Blake, I don't want to say he was the only one, but he was really the first one to really social media wise put it out there and kind of let you behind the scenes in the
Yeah,
studio.
I like to call him the ambassador of the project.
Yeah, no, that's probably the best term for it. He really spearheaded it, kind of became the unofficial official spokesman
Right.
of it. I think he got certain other artists to do the same. They
Oh,
came on
100%.
his,
He
you
got a
know,
lot of them involved that, and some of them have said, "Hey, I didn't even think of that."
yep.
And
And
then,
art's always been, I don't know how you feel, but to me, art's always been, excuse me, part of the hobby. But
right.
this year, with the launch of Project 2020 by Top, it really came to the forefront. Me and
Oh, hell
with the 53s and even other years, there are photography is an art in itself, just regular photo cards,
no.
but with the Project 2020, it really brought it to the forefront as it should be. And now we're seeing obviously that continue. Blake's doing the 51 series, which I really like. We
Yes.
got Project 70 about to go live. We even see, let's be real, we've even see some of the actual very other talented artists that aren't actually employed, let's say by Tops, doing their own issues
A lot of card
kind
art.
of, yeah. And it's really, it's really kind of come to the forefront. I love it. Some people, I see some people will mute it, or they're,
Yeah.
they're
Those are the people
and
that are learning.
yeah, and to each their own. I'm not even saying that in a bad way, but art's always really been a part of the card hobby. It's just now really probably getting its just due, because of these projects and commissions. And do you think though, like, and then we even seen with the Project 2020, as some of the artists kind of did spin-off stuff or
Sure.
companion cards, and do you think we can get to a point where maybe it's oversaturation, and what was a good thing? Tops has had a knack for Tops's MO is sort of something good and kind of beat it to a
Yeah,
pulp.
well, I mean, we can talk about that a little bit because not everything is sunshine and roses. But I'm really, my number one fear is, and you and I have both been in the hobby long enough, this analogy will make sense, that Project 2020 is 1993 finest. Project 70 is 1994 finest. That's my biggest fear. Is that Tops is amazing at something new, and then running it into the ground in year two.
Yeah.
I mean, other than 92 Bowman, which was the fourth year. Other than that, you think of and forget about vintage. Let's there's the stigma, because I personally do not care for modern horizontal cards. I just the pet peeve of mine. I had to add modern because every time I say, "Oh, I don't like horizontal cards." Oh, well, the 53 Bowman Pee Wee Reese. Yeah, I know the 55 set, the 56 set. I get all that, but I had to start telling people I'm modern. Now that's my biggest fear with Project 70 is, and they released the details either yesterday or the day before yesterday that they're going to put out Monday to Friday 3 cards a day, 70 hours each. They did not mention the price point yet, but it's starting to sound they don't lower the price of anything. So they're going to do, one touch, special they even removed the one touch encased in a special plastic holder. 130 point stock card. So you're looking at $20 a card. And at least for me personally, I have to be way more restrained. Way more restrained than, because I was not, you and I are recording this on, February 13th, and the project didn't even end 2 months ago. Project 2020 isn't even 2 months cold. And here we're rolling out a new one with, Project 2020 was 400 cards. Project 70 is 1,020 cards. So
it's insane.
I mean,
you're gonna need a room if you were to buy every card or own every card. You're gonna need a room just with the thickness. You're gonna need this is my Project 70 room. This is where I store them.
And that harkens back to 93 Finest was awesome. 94 Finest, not so much, but also 94 Finest was 2 series.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
they need that many more. See what I'm saying?
man, it's crazy. It's crazy how alike we think. Because here's my thing. I love Project 2020. I know it had its lulls, it has its ups and downs. Some of the cards weren't the greatest, but art's in the eye of the beholder. So even I'm not necessarily right. And then I heard Top say, "Hey, don't worry." My fear was like you said. They're going to run something in the ground. That's their MO. It's kind of their track record. And I was saying, man, this is such a great idea. They nailed it. Please, Tops, don't overdo this. And then they said there's not going to be a Project 2021.
Right.
Or if it is, it's not going to be baseball. It might be something else. And so I'm like, all right, I'll give it a couple years and then do a Project 2023. Right? I'm down with that. You can go back again, but not right away. And then I heard Project 70, and now, like you said, way more artists. 70, just like you said, over 1,000 cards when this thing's all said and done. The price point is not going to be lower, and it's like, so they said we're not doing a Project 2021. But they really are. They're just putting a different title on it. Yep. It's almost like the government, like Project Blue Book. It's it's is what it is, but we just put a code name on it, right? And so you don't know what Project Blue, unless you're really into that, you don't know what it really is. And so they're putting it under Project 70. But I hate to say it like this. In a sense, it's Project 2021. It's coming out. It's coming out in the year 2021. And it's pretty much the same concept with artists. And there are some different things. The artists get to pick the subjects they want to do. But other than that, it really is the same thing. With my approach to it, and I'm curious to yours, is it's just to be, I'll see the cards as they come out. And if one card hits me a certain way where like, man, I like to own that, I'll get it. If not, I'll wait till the next day. But it's not something I'm going to be
not like
waiting on with bated breath, like I did sort of with the Project 2020.
I did Blake's whole set.
Yeah.
I'm not again.
Yeah. Just like, and I don't know. I get it. I know when you get something good, you sort of want to keep it going. There's two angles to look at that from, but I sort of like the Olympic approach, right? The Olympics are cool. That's a good one. Because they come around every 4 years. You look forward to it. If the Olympics were every year, they would lose its mystique.
You're right. You're 100% right.
And so I don't want it every year, right? We have things that should be every year, regular products. But I think something like this, I looked at Project 2020 as like the Olympics, a great event, great release. Great ratings, good reviews for the most part, and like let's do it again in 3 or 4 years.
Exactly, right? Perfect analogy. I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, but here we are. Like you said, 2 months. 2 months. We're not even talking a year.
Yeah, it starts on February 17th.
So 2 months, and that's my fear is, as great as Project 2020 was, these releases that come after it are going to sort of tarnish a little bit anyway.
I agree.
Maybe not complete. Tarnish the legacy of what Project 2020 is, which is a great release, a great time in hobby history. But I think some of these products that come after it are going to kind of hurt it because dilute. That's a good way to use it. Or say, see what this thing started. That there'll be sort of that negative connotation on it. When maybe it's not even fair. You know what I mean? It may not even be a fair one.
To be fair, John, all you have to say to someone is "sure, Griffey," and then those 2 words put together, "sure, Griffey," and
I just we'll see. Again, I just got off a rant saying you never know, and we'll see. The public and the consumer and the hobbyists are going to decide how successful. And maybe Topps is saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll the print runs will be low because people are having sort of art card
Sure.
burnout.
But
But maybe that's a blessing in disguise, because what happens with low print runs, right? The value tends to
So you
go
have
up. So,
but you're always going to have people involved in the hobby, in the business side that are, people were saying, and I've seen it read this last couple of days. Oh, there'll definitely be some of them under 1,000 print run.
yeah,
Probably
yeah,
not. There's just so many, there's a lot of for lack of a better term, a lot of money guys in the hobby, in the
yeah.
business. In the
They're
hobby.
just going to buy one
Right.
of everything, at least, if
Oh,
not
hey,
more.
if this one's going to be low print run, I'm going to buy 100 and just put them away.
Yeah, yeah. Just hedging it, just like hedge funding.
Perfect.
So yeah, you're right. So I'd be interested. I will say this: it's a good, valid point by you. The print runs are definitely going to be more interesting, almost than we were all into the Project 2020 print runs each week, each day, right? This one's going to be even more interesting because it's not a new concept anymore. And there's going to be some burnout. I think we both kind of talked about our own little bit, like, man, involved in it. So I'm sure other people, I've seen people post on social media, I love Project 2020, but I got to draw the line somewhere. I'm out on this, almost like Shark Tank, I'm out. No. So, it would be interesting to see. But you know what? That's the other thing, too. You can say that, and then you see the card, and you're like, you know what? I said I was out, but these are nice, or this card's nice. I'm buying. I know I said I wasn't buying any, but I'm going back on my word. I have to get this.
Fear of mine as well.
Yeah. So it'll be, I tell you what, I'm going to be definitely, even besides being a content creator, which I would have kept tabs on it anyway, even if I wasn't, it's going to be interesting to see where this thing goes and
at least
what
for
happens.
Me personally, you won't be able to avoid it. So
yeah. No, it's yeah. I don't care how many mute or filters you put on your social media. It'll sneak in there regardless. So, well, Eric, I appreciate you coming on, man. I love what you do. We have a lot of the same sentiments, and I appreciate you being as such and being such a great advocate and ambassador for a hobby that we both enjoy, and trying to, like you said, share that knowledge. To me, it's so important. It's so important. Like you said, even to leave, not to be dramatic, but even to leave a hobby legacy, if you will, something someone can look back on, when we're, and hopefully that's later rather than sooner, but you just don't know. And, so I appreciate what you do. I wanted to tell you that. And thank you for coming on the show and sharing some of that wisdom with us here and those listening. I always give the guests kind of the final word here to give out your websites, your YouTube channel, where people can get this great content. Go ahead.
I'm pretty much ThoseBackPages just about everywhere you can think of, mainly on YouTube and on Twitter. Those are the main two things. I'm on blowout message boards as well. So if, that's a whole nother topic, but yeah, I mean, Twitter and YouTube, you can reach out to me either of those places, and if you have general, like, hey, if you're listening, you want to get back in, or you want to start up, if your child is showing interest in collecting, whatever it may be, and I'm sure John mirrors the same thing.
Yep.
Just reach out and be glad to help.
Yep. And I'm, as much as we do know, there's sometimes, I'm sure you're the same way. I'll get asked a question where I don't know the actual answer, and I'll tell someone, hey, I don't know. Let me find out, and I'll get back to you. And then I come back.
Well, that's the beautiful thing is we might not know, but we know someone who knows.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yep. So, yep. Well, Eric, once again, man, thank you for your time. Keep doing. You don't need me to tell you this, but keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome stuff, and I appreciate it. Take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy.